All right, guys, welcome back to Accursed Brew. My name is Azriel, and as usual, I'm joined with Anthony.
What's up?
And today we're gonna have a conversation about we've been toying around with the series for a while now, calling it a conversation about, and then specifically today, a conversation about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on the PC.
Yeah, so about this series, just something we're trying out. We don't know if it's gonna, change up. This is the first one, obviously, but you guessed it, it's us talking about a game. So that's pretty much what the whole series is. But we'll figure it out as we go. I'm sure we'll play with the idea. But we just want to hang out and talk about stuff we are currently doing or passionate about.
Yeah, it's like a it's very straightforward. But yeah, so again, today's focus Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We are going to be tackling Rebirth, Remake. We're going to hit on the old games, maybe even like the one on the PSP with Zach.
Crisis Core.
Crisis Core. That's what it was. Dude, I've been trying to remember that for like a week now.
It's a good game.
Instead
It's
of
a good
just
game.
looking it up like,
Mhm.
most people would, I just struggled to identify it. But yeah, we're going to be talking about all that, maybe even the movie and things like that. Just kind of like it as a whole. And
Advent
then,
Children is a banger. I'm not gonna lie.
oh yeah, it's sick, dude. It's such a good time. But yeah, we're just going to try to hit them all and then pick up where we are. So Anthony and I recently picked up Rebirth on the PC. I'm just after the first boss fight, working my way into chapter 3, and he is right before the first boss fight.
Yeah, I am about 12 hours into the game. I spent probably 3.5 hours playing Queen's Blood. Um,
Which is
so
phenomenal.
that's which I think is like the accurate. That's how probably 70% of people are going to play this game.
Yeah.
Um, it's a really I mean it's if you like Gwent, it's a similar type of thing where you got to go around beat people for cards, buy cards from different shops, build your deck. Um, I'm probably going to spend way more time on this than I am the actual game, which I love.
Yeah, and honestly, it's we'll start with that. Initially, I was thinking like let's go into the story, but let's start with the mini games. So, to be honest, man, there are so many fucking mini games in this game. Each chapter, I believe, or not each chapter, each region has a unique mini game that.
Oh, we should cover the fact you have played and beaten this game before on the PlayStation 5. This is my first experience with Rebirth.
Yes, yeah. So I have
PC
played it
port.
when it
He's
first.
just replaying it on the PC port.
Yeah, I just yeah, and it was a great time. I fucking love the game, but there are so many, man. It's like every region has their own mini game, and then you have Queen's Blood, and then you have the Golden Saucer. Um, that's what it's called, right? The Golden Saucer.
That's like the casino. Yeah, yeah.
There's so fucking many. Like you have no idea, man. Just wait until you get there and you go through the different regions. It gets ridiculous. It got to the point where it was like, okay, this is like quite a bit. Um,
I can't wait. I can't wait. That's the thing is like I can already tell just from how dense the initial area and it doesn't do it's like the map that you're looking at. It has a bunch of objectives on it, and there are like the Assassin's Creed Ubisoft type towers, to find more little objectives on the map in your area.
mhm.
But it never has felt like it's never felt too cluttered. There's been like enough space in between the things. The things are varied enough that it's not just, the same six things over like Assassin's Creed games or something. It seems very varied so far, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I never really felt like it was very burdensome, but it did get a little repetitive because it is pretty much the exact same thing every single region you go. You're doing
Mm.
pretty much the exact same thing in every single place. Again, the landscape is different, and there are some really interesting ones out there. Like they get pretty fucking cool with like the sort of elevation that they're using, the
Mm.
different needs of the chocobos that you're seeing, or that you're getting rather.
And these things, by the way, this includes like little like combat trials, artifacts that you have to climb somewhere for, like stuff like that. It's very Assassin's Creed where there's different little mini games kind of things to do on the map.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. Like it didn't. I mean, maybe the second time around it would feel fairly burdensome, but it just didn't the first time. I didn't necessarily mind it. I enjoyed the combat of it, the moment to moment action and things like that. Like that for me, it really resonated with me. Like it was pretty enjoyable. So I didn't necessarily mind it very much. But yeah, I did have a question for you though. Which is so like you've played Seven, right? You've played
Yes.
Advent Children, watched the movie, remake, and now you're making your way into Rebirth. I have my own perspective of sort of in this case, I feel like this is an adaptation of Seven, right? Like it's in line with the first name. It's a remake. It's an adaptation. It's
Yes.
like a changing
Yeah.
of things. So I'm curious, like, what your takeaway is from that adaptation, having that the
So,
initial.
like, 7 Final Fantasy 7 was one of the first JRPGs that I played once I learned how to read. Like, it was like Pokemon Red and Blue, I taught myself how to read how to play those, and then Final Fantasy 7, I, like, watched my dad play a little bit, and then once I was able to read, I, like, played it myself. Um, so, like, it's, like, one of my, like, core memory like, my first crush was Aerith. Like, that type of thing, you know? Like, that's where it was with me. So, like, I love the story of Final Fantasy 7. It's the most batshit insane anime bullshit you've seen. Um, but it, like it's in my opinion, it's one of the coolest stories in JRPGs. Um, the whole, Midgar, Mako, the Earth's life force and materia and all. I think it's so interesting. It's got such interesting like rule sets for how like the world works, as in like how magic works in the world and all that kind of thing. Um, and I mean, do you want to get into like the spoilers of like kind of the end of remake and how like the timeline and stuff shifts?
Yeah, I think for this, I think everything up until Rebirth is fair game in terms of what we're gonna talk
Yeah,
about.
I would say that. So if you haven't played remake and you don't want to know, maybe we'll put on the screen like skip to this
Yeah, for
part or
sure.
something. But basically how it was explained to me, or how I interpreted it was the there are those things like I think they're called whispers,
Yeah.
which are those little like tentacly floaty guys that are kind of the guiding force to keep the timeline correct. So if something like I think like Barrett gets shot or stabbed or something like that, and they keep him alive because he's not supposed to die yet. Like that type of thing. So like whether good or bad, they were keeping the course for what the actual reality of Final Fantasy VII was. Um, but then at the end of remake, something happens, and you kind of break that cycle, so things can be different going forward. Which is very exciting. Uh, I'm just very interested to see how they're gonna fuck with things. Like the first thing you notice is, hey, Zack is still alive in this timeline, which is insane for somebody like a veteran of the original Final Fantasy VII, because the whole point of Final Fantasy VII, and Cloud's journey was like in disc 2 or 3, the twist is, oh, these aren't Cloud's memories, these are Zack. Like that was like the whole thing. But Zack's still alive, so what are we doing? We got it's crazy.
Is there any like do they ever mess with time in 7? Because from my understanding in like the PSP game,
I mean,
in
there's a big time skip.
well, I mean, like, okay, well, I mean, like, are they going back in time? Are they talking about changing timelines and time travel and shit like that? Is that like ever like from what you can remember? Is that ever like a discussion that the characters have? Is that ever like a
So
element that's
there
present?
again, I was very young when I played it, so it's this is fucking probably 20 years ago at this point, when I had gotten to those parts. From what I remember, it was something along those lines of like there was definitely hints of like multiverse type stuff.
Okay, yeah, because I was curious if that was ever the case.
But I don't remember if they ever blatantly say it, but I remember like having that impression when I was a kid. But like I said, it was so anime bullshit. Like it's the stuff that happens in the original Fantasy VII is insane.
Yeah, it's like all tropes that you can imagine
Yeah,
thrown into one.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I think
And again, I may be wrong. Like I said, it's been 20 years, but I do feel like that was like a theme.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because kind of like my perspective on it, going from like I have like a general understanding of the Final Fantasy VII story, like having watched the video on it like probably
Mhm.
like a decade ago at this point. It's been a minute. I do plan on playing it again, which is why I'm kind of like trying to stay a little ignorant on the topic because I don't want, like I have some spoilers in that I know of, but I want to, kind of be as fresh to it as possible.
Yeah.
But I to me, like again, it comes across as an adaptation of Seven, kind of taking those general themes, those general plot points and changing them up and trying to redo it in like a fresh sort of way. And I don't necessarily, I want to avoid the wider topic of adaptations in general, whether it's like video games and movies, games to a new iteration of that game or whatever the case is, because that's a whole topic in of itself. But to me, it feels like they, whatever the game was before, what it is now in the remake and rebirth, and then eventually the third, I think is pretty solid. I think they did a good job with just creating, like you said about seven, just like this really like over the top, like anime esque kind of fucking story.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. The tornado at the end of Rebirth is like, I just don't get it. The whispers and stuff like that, like I didn't really understand that until more of Rebirth. I had like a general idea, but
Yeah.
um
Tornado at the end of a remake, right?
yeah, remake. Yeah, the first
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Um yeah, it's so bad shit, but it's fun. It's honestly, it feels like a really good time. It's nice to kind of spend time with these characters in, like it's not that I have anything wrong with like the way the game looks initially or plays, but it's nice to spend time with them in like 3D, in like, high def and like relatively
Yeah.
new. And like it feels really cool to do that. And you really do grow attached to every person in it. But yeah, it is really interesting how like those whispers
Well,
are
that's the thing. Going back to remake, what is it? Biggs, Jesse, like the people
Avalanche.
on the Avalanche. They weren't necessarily, they were a big part of the initial one, but they were pretty footnotey. You don't have that many interactions with them. They're just like side characters. Jesse a little bit more, but Biggs and stuff. Um, but in remake, you got to like go on missions with them and get to know them and care about them a lot. I really like how they treated like a lot of the side characters and gave them more depth.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I definitely think, and that caters to the fact that it's gonna be a three-part series, that each
Yeah,
game is minimum like, you know,
they could stretch it out a lot. Yeah,
yeah, like the second game, like I think I beat it in a little over 100 hours after having done like just about everything. The first game, I want to say was probably like 55, 60 something hours that I put into that. Like there's a lot of time that they have given themselves to flesh them out. And I think that they're doing it well. Like it really feels like you're getting the opportunity to really learn about this person and things like that. With the inclusion of like, wasn't Red 13 right at the end of the first one that you get to meet him and see him and things like that?
it's when you're climbing the tower, you break them out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then your relationship with him going into Rebirth, like that's a substantial part of the story is him and
Yeah,
his character and things like that. And that's really fucking cool. I don't know, it's nice to see. I think they really killed it with giving you, like you said, giving you that time to flesh them out and really get to know them and appreciate them for, you know, the characters that they are.
definitely. I mean, in the initial, in like the original, it was like, yeah, you care about Aerith, Tifa, Barrett. Like those are like your homies, obviously, and
Yeah.
like everybody else, Yuffie or Yuffie, whatever the fuck her name is. Like, yeah, you care about them, you get to know them and stuff, but that's not until fucking disc 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you really get into it. Red, you learn about a little bit on disc 2, like you go to his like his old cave or whatever. Learn about like the family and all that. But there's I feel like in Rebirth they already like it's already given so much more depth to these characters that you really are going to be pissed off when they kill off a couple.
Yeah. Just wait until you get, yeah, Rebirth does a very good job, in my opinion, of spending the vast majority of its time really leaning into the characters and their stories and where they come from and their backstories and
Well,
things
and
like
they
that.
have like
Like,
the relationship system, like dialogue choices that make characters lean certain ways towards you and everything.
yeah, I've never, when I played through the game the first time, I only ever did like the right choices, like quote unquote, to like make them like me. So I don't know what the game is like if they don't. You know what I mean? Like if it's
Yeah,
less
true.
like, in my head canon, it was like Cloud is getting more comfortable and breaking out of his shell, so he's being, nicer to these people. But maybe this time when I play through it, he doesn't break out of his shell. Maybe he's just really an asshole, and like that's the experience that you have through the game. So it's definitely something to toy around with, and it does give you that opportunity. I don't know how deep it goes, and you're probably not going to be changing any plot points, but really it's just the dialogue that might change because of it. But that's usually the
Yeah,
case for most games that give you like, again, like a quote unquote choice, right? It's oftentimes it's the beginning and the conclusion are exactly the same more often than not. It's just kind of like the chunk that you spend to get from A to B that changes
yeah,
depending on your relationship. Not many games
exactly.
actually give you choice, right? Like real choice with real consequence. Usually it's just like you can talk to them a little differently. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely it's good times. I think Rebirth is really great. I'm loving what they're doing with the series, how it's transcending like its original, 2D turn-based boundaries into like this more open world 3D, more action-esque gameplay. Um, which brings me on my next thing, which I think is probably going to be the more interesting part about this is that
Brother, I'm gritting my teeth. I'm holding back.
is that from my point of view, like, I don't think I think at a baseline, there's quite a few things that me and Anthony are going to agree on in regards to the combat, but I think the roads that we take to get to where our end opinions are on it are going to be like different. So, like, for example, I do think the gameplay is fairly shallow in a lot of ways, especially early on. But I definitely think it gets a hell of a lot better the further into it you go. Um, and for me, it's fun. Like I like that type of combat.
Mhm.
Um, whereas on Anthony's side, it's the opposite. But I'll let you
I
expand that.
I despise the combat in this game. I truly, truly, truly am doing everything in my power. I put it on the easiest difficulty. I modded it so I have fucking 8 materia slots in every item that I pick up. I'm doing everything I can to trivialize the combat so I could just get to the story and the mini games and the world and exploring. Um, I You know what? Let's be positive first. You should go first. I because I don't want to shit on it too much because I don't. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I don't like it, and I will give you. I will let you know the reasons why I don't like it. They're very specific reasons. Um, but like a lot of it just has to do with how it feels and how it looks. Like it's. I don't know, I'll let you go.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna start with like my baseline of the game and then or gameplay and then kind of build myself up from that, right?
Yeah.
So again, like at a baseline, I think it's fairly shallow. Like the game is very much in a lot of ways, again, especially early on, which to be honest, really does matter a lot. Like as much as the gameplay could be really fun, like 30, 40 hours plus in, you got to get it to 30, 40 hours plus to enjoy it for that depth. You know what I mean? Like it
Mhm.
that takes time and that's important, right? Like you can't just throw your initial like 15, 20 some odd hours and it's just fucking boring. Because that's gonna kill some people's desire to continue on if the world, if the characters, if the story isn't alluring enough to them, which in this game, I do think it is, but it's not always the case. But again,
Yeah.
like I think it's fairly shallow. It's a lot of smashing X, holding X to maybe do like an AoE attack to build up your gauge a little bit quicker. But that's pretty much all you're doing is attacking to get gauge to then use a spell, attacking to get gauge to use a
No,
spell.
attack, get ATP or ATB, whatever it is, assess, figure out the weakness, ATB, XXXXXX, cast fire, cast wind, cast lightning. Like, that's I'm sorry.
No, I mean it's totally fair. See, like I don't necessarily mind it because I think it. You also have to, man. I'm gonna put a lot of like you got to do this, you got to do that, like a lot of these contingent things on this.
Mhm,
But in like my case, typically what I'll do when I go into combat is I'll jump in, do a couple attacks, do an AOE attack, assess with Cloud, and then as soon as I do the assess with Cloud, I'll immediately pivot to like Tifa or Barrett, who I put a lot of spells on, so they can
mhm.
pressure. So it's like, say Tifa has, you know, her skill tree, she learns wind and fire. And then in her spells, I have like lightning and, ice or blizzard or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. So I have like the opportunity to, once the assess comes through, which takes a second, so you can get a couple attacks in with Tifa first or with Barrett. Assesses tell you what your problem or what the weakness is. You jump into Tifa Barrett, use a spell to pressure it. You switch back to Cloud or whomever you want, and then you build up that stagger gauge until they are staggered, and then you can hit him with like a brave or braver, I think is what it's called with Cloud, and then so on and so forth. So, I mean, there's like particular ways you can sort of play through the combat to make it more fun for yourself. But again, at like a baseline, it very much is just smashing X. Now, I do think, again, as the game goes on, as you get more materia, you get more weapons that have like very unique abilities, which I think is what the
Mhm.
Y is called. It does change it up quite a bit. And then I do think that some characters are just really fucking fun. Um, I love Barrett's like baseline. You pump them 3 times and then one big explosion and that
Oh,
builds up your
like
gauge.
the yeah, the charge is over charge gun or whatever.
Yeah, like I like that into using a spell, especially later on because I remember in when I first played through it, it was like I'd have like all this stuff to give him a lot of gauge very quickly, and then I would go
Mhm.
straight into overpower, which I think is what it's called when he's doing.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It's like it's just
Like
he's
his
shooting a
full
bunch of
gauge Y.
bullets.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
just shooting a shitload of bullets at somebody. Like I don't know, like I kind of like that. And again, like I don't want to get into spoilers, but some of the other characters further down into the game, like further along in the game, I think they just play really fun, and they have like a really fun sort of um what's it called, gameplay loop to them. But again, like it's something further on, it gets better as you get more materia, as you get like auto cast materia, you get auto unique ability materia. They start to do more damage. You can do like AoE combos with them. You can do tricks on it. Like it just gets more fun. I don't know. Like, but again, like I totally understand. Early on, it does kind of suck. It's just really straightforward. I do think that's the case on a lot of games that play similarly, or games, or like even like turn based or whatever the case is. You start off
Mhm.
really weak, and you have your combat is very one dimensional. But it's at those times where you really have to make it the loop fun, the effects fun, you know, and everything else enjoyable. But I know, like we've spoke about this previously, he does have like some there's some things that really bother him. So I'm gonna let you go
Yes.
off and tell me because I have my opinions on them too, and we can just go, back and forth on it. But yeah, go
Yeah,
for
yeah.
it.
So, like, I think I have, like, 3 main issues with the combat. 1, I agree with you completely on the initially, it's like, yeah, it's fucking it's boring to me. To me,
Yeah.
it doesn't like, yes, I modded it and I put it on easy and stuff, and if I, you know, put it on hard and actually learn the combat, I might be better, but I don't want to struggle through the fights that, to me, are just keeping me from experience the story that I want to experience. Like, I care about the cutscenes, I care about talking to characters, I care about exploring new towns, adventuring, hitting all these checkpoints and towers, and clearing the map and stuff. Like, that's the fun part of the game for me. And the combat is the stuff in between that you have to get through to get to those things. And that's just personally me because that's how I've always, you know, uh, kind of felt about JRPGs specifically, where I'm playing them for the story. Like, I'm playing for them for walls of text and lore and interesting stuff that they're doing. Um, but that's not to say that you can't have a JRPG with great combat that I will really enjoy. Um, However, I think, the action style combat that they did, the way they did it, it's too much. There's too many effects on screen at all times. There's sparks flying everywhere. My ADHD ass cannot concentrate on anything because there's so much flying around the screen. Like, so much. You have all of your fucking party members, even if it's not like even if you have Barrett benched, he's still in the corner shooting, which is cool, but like there's just too much. Like, 3 enemies on screen and then 5 party members fucking jumping around, fading in and out of existence, and sparks flying everywhere. It's too much visually for me. Secondly, there are no iframes on dodges. Um, and while this may be totally acceptable to a lot of people, um, I'm a Souls head. I like those type of I like if I'm playing like an action combat style game, that's the style I want. Iframes may be kind of cheesy or whatever, but that's what I'm comfortable with. If I hit dodge and my intention is to dodge and I time it right based on your swing, I think I shouldn't be hit. I have never successfully dodged an attack in my 12 hours of playing Final Fantasy. Um, I don't like the blocking system. Uh, I don't know if there's a parry system. I don't know. I can't time it right because I can't see where the swings are coming from because there's so many effects on the screen. Um, I am probably just bad at it, but at this point, don't wanna take the time to learn because it's so frustrating to me and it's not rewarding in the slightest. I don't feel like I did anything special when I finish a difficult fight. I just feel like I pressed X fast enough. And that to me is an issue. Like, I want to it I know I keep going back to it, but if it were turn-based and I had to plan out my turns against the enemy turns and balance everything going forth, I would love that. But again, that's me. I don't think there's any strategy, at least in the first 12 hours of combat, and that's not interesting to me at all.
Yeah, so you think it's less that the so like I would say that the okay, so let me take a step back. So I'll jump into the rolling first, and then I'll get into like the whole strategy
Mhm.
aspect of it. So I think in rolling, I don't necessarily disagree that like the lack of iframes is definitely a choice. It definitely rings to me like they want you to engage with the combat in like a very specific sort of way, right? Like they
Yeah.
want you to block, they want you to parry. Which fuck, I can't remember if there is parry. I feel like there is, but effectively they just want you to block. Like,
I've
no, no,
I
no, there
have
is a parry because it makes you immune, and then block is less damage. So there's definitely a
Okay.
parry.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a choice. I think in terms of gameplay, lack of iframes, I do think makes things more difficult, and I think that's fine. I just don't know if Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the game to get rid of the iframes to make things more difficult. You know, like I could see a game like a Souls game getting rid of that to really fucking challenge you. You know what I mean? Like
Fucking,
saying,
what the Ghost of Shote or something coming out. That would make sense.
yeah, like something like that, getting rid of iframes on rolling I think definitely makes a lot of sense. I just don't know if Final Fantasy VII is a game for it. I personally don't really mind it very much, but I can definitely understand the criticism. I think the blocking, you do need to be like, the blocking is generous. The parry is like very precise as it is in a lot of games, you know,
Mhm.
to like
I've
completely,
I've never once learned how to parry in a game.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's okay. Yeah,
I beat Bloodborne without ever parrying.
yeah.
Which
So
if I don't think you've played
I've not played it.
Bloodborne, but, if anybody knows Bloodborne, I shot the gun twice, it did 10 damage, and I never used it again.
Yeah,
I was dodge roll specifically. I beat Dark Souls 3 without ever blocking.
I can see that for
Um,
sure.
I when I'm learning like action combat, I figure out one specific thing and I focus on that, and that's all I do. Um, and blocking and parrying, I've never done.
Yeah,
So it's like it's literally designed like the combat is designed to push you in the way that is the opposite of my play style.
yeah, see, I think that's where the big departure is where like what we like out of it. Like I,
Yeah,
I definitely don't like I like the more active gameplay. I do think that there is strategy and depth to it, but it's like you have to engage with it initially from the perspective of having to like spam X and dodge roll to like, dodge an attack and things like
yeah,
that to get to where that strategy is. Like that's the barrier between you and depth is the attacking as opposed to like in a turn-based game that barrier of attacking isn't there. It's just strategy, like right off the bat. Um,
yeah.
and yeah, I could definitely see that for sure. Um, I think it would have been cool if they added like a turn base. You know what I mean? If they did both, I can't fucking imagine that they would. The only game I think I know that does different types of combat styles is Pillars of Eternity. Pillars of Eternity, which gives you more of like an active turn based.
Well, remember like Dragon Age 2?
Was that? I don't think that was turn based though, wasn't it? That was just more
You
active
could
turn based.
it was like it was kind of set up like KOTOR, where like it would pause, you would select your attack, like you would queue up your stuff, and then it would go live for like that turn.
Is that really what it was like? I thought it was just always active and
Or
you
maybe that was
pause
Dragon
it.
Age 1.
Because if I remember correctly, these were more like they would like actively play. Like they're like you would engage with an enemy, they're doing their auto attack animations at one another, and then you would like pick an ability as they came off cooldown, as you had mana or whatever the case was, and then you would do it. It was like a little bit more of an active style, which was what Pillars of Eternity was like. It was like they were actively engaging with one another, and as things came off cooldown, or you had like I don't remember if there was like a gauge you would build up or whatever there was. But then you would cast abilities as you had the ability to. Um,
I may be wrong. I thought Dragon Age was very similar to from what I remember, like Origins was like KOTOR like combat. Um,
Honestly, I don't.
but I may be wrong.
Yeah, yeah, I guess I could be wrong too. Honestly, I don't remember that well. It's been a minute. I just remember like you would walk up to somebody and then you would. It's kind of like Witcher, like the Witcher combat, the first one. That shit was rough. That was Bad combat.
I've never played the original Witcher.
Actually, you know what? It wasn't even like that. The original Witcher was more of like it felt like a rhythm game. Like he would attack and then you'd have to queue up, you'd have to hit like A again to do another attack, but you'd have to time it right. And then you would build up momentum and he would attack quicker and quicker and quicker. And you do it like 3 times and he's going as quick as he can. Really fucking weird, like a rhythm based combat system, an RPG, very strange. At least for that. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's where we kind of depart is like sort of how we like. I like the strategy aspect. He likes strategy. It's just like how we get to that point of strategy, right? Whether we're jumping into it immediately or we're building our way to it, um, which I think is totally fair. You know, after playing through Final Fantasy X recently, I'm like right before Unalesca, which I think is right before Sin, if I remember correctly. I don't think there's any other boss between those two.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's just like a lot of fun. Like I'm loving the turn based of it.
That's the thing is like I think I don't know. I love turn-based combat. I know a lot of people don't. But I like taking my time and thinking about what I'm gonna do and not like if I want to play an action combat game, I'll play a Souls game.
Yeah, that makes
You
sense.
know, this is not. And I honestly, I think if it wasn't for all of the particle effects on screen, I'd be much more okay with it. But I literally can't see what's going on. Like I can't see when an enemy is telegraphing an attack
Yeah.
because there's sparks flying everywhere.
Yeah, which is totally fair. I mean, that could definitely be a pain in the ass. Just not be able to make out what's happening.
Again, I'm just not good at games, so
But I think talking about like the technical side of things, like the effects and things like that, I think we can pivot our way into like settings and the performance and the way the game feels, frame rate, things like that. I think typical port, the performance is kind of shit. There's a lot of popping. Um, Yeah, it just doesn't run. The popping fucking kills me, to be honest. And like, there's a lot of stuttering too. I did download a mod to kind of, lessen the stuttering, which the gameplay you're seeing is with the mod in mind. And then I also have another mod too that ups the sharpen because for some reason the game feels really dull all the time.
it's like there's like a fuzz over it, right?
Yeah, it feels really dull. And I have like a sharpen on. I think it's reshade, and it's like very like it's really not that much of a sharpen. It's
That
like
that's why I asked you, like, if it because I know you said it does look better on PC. Like, you said it, like,
oh for
definitively it
sure,
looks
yeah.
better on PC. Um, but I was wondering, did the PS5, like, do you have the Pro or the regular PS5?
I had the Pro.
You had the Pro when you played it?
Whatever the
Um,
newest PS5 was like when this game came out a year ago.
okay. Um, did it have, like the fuzz over it?
It did, but it's like a console game. So I feel like most console games,
Yeah.
and I didn't run it in like so there was two modes. There was performance mode and like fidelity mode or whatever the other one was called. Is
Mhm.
basically like 30 FPS or 60 FPS. What did you want to play in?
Yeah.
And man, the 30 FPS is unfucking playable. I can't do 30 FPS. I can't. So I did 60
You
FPS.
spoiled motherfucker.
Dude, it's rough. Try going back, dude. It's rough.
No, it is, it is. Having, 'cause my TV's 30 and my monitor now is 100, and it's like, I can't even watch stuff on like, I can't play my Xbox on my TV, I have to hook it to my monitor.
Yeah, it's definitely rough. So, the game running, I think mine was like 120 frames. I don't know if that was the max, but that's the refresh rate I have my monitor at. So I don't know if it
Mhm.
like went as high as my refresh rate because mine will go up higher, but everything over 120 doesn't feel that much different.
Yep.
But yeah, it just random stuttering, random performance issues, and things like that. It just really didn't run that well, which is kind of a shame. But again, like that's typical port. I know the Spider-Man 2 port that just came out is also having like performance issues, which is just pretty fucking normal. It feels like at this point, whenever
Yeah, it
Sony's bringing a
could
game
be,
over.
who knows, maybe some driver updates, maybe a couple patches from them. I'm sure it'll get better. But the thing is, you do have, like, a very powerful machine. Like, it's not an excuse, it's not your hardware.
Yeah, like I'm running a
It's
4070
the
Super.
optimization. Yeah, it's the optimization. A 4070 Super should be able to run this totally fine.
Yeah. So, again, I think the only big critique I have after having installed the mod that helped with the stuttering now is just the pop in. The pop in is just really annoying. It happens if you move your camera too quick, which is that happens in a lot of games early on that release with poor performance. The pop in is just a pain in the ass, but um, it's nothing stopping me from playing the game. I'm still having a good time with it. I'm still enjoying it nonetheless. Um,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I
And
think
that's the
it's
thing. As harsh as I was on the combat, I do love this game. Like, I really am enjoying my time with it. Um, I just don't like the combat.
Yeah, which is totally fair. And I think you're gonna love it even more when you get to the Golden Stars, so you do those mini games. Um, some of them kind of are shit. There is one in particular that I'm remembering. I think it's like chapter like, or maybe like the third region or something. That
Mhm.
one, maybe it's like the third or fourth region. But it fucking sucked and I just didn't like it. But the rest of them are like a good time and pretty fun in their own right. So, but yeah, I think the game is great, man. I think if you like Final Fantasy VII, this is an easy fucking purchase. If you got a PC and you haven't played it yet, um, maybe play it, try to get as quickly as you can to like actual gameplay to like fuck with your settings before the 2 hours is up on Steam, so you can return it if it doesn't run well, and then buy it when it does, or just
Yeah,
sit on it.
100%.
But yeah, I think it's good shit.
Also, if you've played Final Fantasy 1 or Final Fantasy 1, if you played the original Final Fantasy 7, um, and, like, you haven't played Remake and wanna jump into Rebirth, you probably can. I would just watch, like, a recap of Remake.
They do have
Uh,
that in the beginning of Rebirth. They have a story so far. I didn't watch it, so I don't know the quality of it, but they do have that in the main menu of the game.
yeah, like, I think if you're honestly, I think you could jump in at this fresh and be okay. Even if you didn't play the other Final Fantasy, just do a little bit of research, click on that button in the menu, it should be fine. Um, there's not that much different from the original story, and it's, it's fucking anime, dude. Crazy shit's gonna happen.
That's pretty much what it boils down to, dude. I'm telling you, man, when you get to the end of Rebirth, it gets fucking it got to the point where I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it got to the point where like I finished the game and I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like I'm confused. So I loaded up a save before the end of the game, replayed the,
Yeah.
the ending of it, and again I was like, okay, I didn't miss anything. I'm just confused. Because it is confusing at the end.
So there's a point in the original Final Fantasy VII where that kind of happens as well. Like, it, I won't get too much into spoilers. I guess I will. But like at a certain point, like Cloud's like invalid in a wheelchair, and like you stop playing Cloud.
Okay, yeah. And well, maybe that's in the third
It's
game.
it's ridiculous. Like he's like catatonic in a wheelchair and like depressed and like won't talk to anybody and like brain dead.
Oh, I see, I see. Yeah, you know what? I've already said too much, but
No, no, that's fine. That's fine. But like yeah, there's a point where it's like, oh, like this is like I'm playing a different character now.
yeah, that's crazy. Okay, yeah, for sure. Because I'm sure the remake, rebirth, and fucking redo, whatever the third one's gonna be called, the fucking Final Fantasy VII Refantasia, dude. That's the next
Let's
one.
go. Let's go.
It's I'm sure it's gonna hit on a lot of the same plot points and things like that. And again, like you'll see, there definitely feels like there's some fresh shit in there. Because I don't remember people ever fucking talking about this. But I don't know, we'll see. So, but it's good shit. I
Yeah,
I, I think it's
that's
fun.
the thing.
So
That, like I said, so much happened in the original Final Fantasy VII. I know they're gonna do crazy bad shit stuff with this.
yeah, so and they will trust me. But yeah, man. I mean, like I feel pretty good. I mean, unless you had anything else you wanted to mention, I feel like I'm signing
No,
off on this like I would a meeting at work. I gotta like knock that off. That's exactly what I say.
yeah.
Like my meetings, I'm like,
Uh, Anybody have anything else to add or want to wrap this up?
yeah, I'll give you guys some time back in your day. It looks like we got like 7 minutes. Like, just fucking kill me right now, dude.
Anthony has the floor, real quick. We're gonna.
um, but no, it's good shit. So I think you guys should try it out. Like I said, try to make do with the 2 hours of Steam. Return it if not. Watch some videos. Check out what your hardware can put out. From like what other people are doing. Definitely worth checking out. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Definitely something we're going to be doing a lot more of as we go into the future, as we play more games. KCD2 is coming out soon, so we might do one of those or one of these on that. Avowed, probably we will, because I love the world of, I think it's called Aora. I'm a big fan of that and all the different like races and people and lore and blah blah blah.
I love aioli.
I love Aeoli. But yeah, we'll see. So yeah, it was good shit, man.
Yeah, I think. I mean, only thing I really have to say is, yeah, this is like the pilot. So we're playing around with the format. I'm sure we'll kind of lock in and narrow it down and get it cleaner. But this is kind of just us chatting. Like that's really it. Think of it like more of a podcast type situation.
Yeah, we're just chatting YouTube style.
Just chatting. Please sign up for my OnlyFans.
That's what it feels like we're asking for at this point.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. But yeah, cool. I thank you guys for checking this out. If you guys have here so far, please like it, subscribe it, bell it, comment it,
Pop
whatever.
it, lock it, do it, baby.
Yeah, do some tricks on it. Yeah, thank you guys, and we will catch you guys next time.